Hello. Welcome back to episode 2 of Dad's Dialogues. I'm your host, Naz Hopte, and I am so glad you guys are back listening again. We are going to have fun on this podcast, on the second one. The second one, we're going to be talking about the surprise of learning we are pregnant, and then the different stages of pregnancy that my wife went through. And what can we do as dads to be as supportive, as attentive as possible, and kind of giving you an idea of what kind of happens. Disclaimer, of course, every woman goes through it differently. But as I said in the first podcast, we are trying to be amazing husbands as well. So, without further ado, let's get into what does pregnancy look like and how can men help their women when they're pregnant. And I'm going to start off with a fun part of our whole journey is that we found out we were pregnant in Paris, France, of all places. You will see, maybe if you go to my Instagram or whatever, that are pictures in front of the Eiffel Tower with the little pregnancy test saying pregnant or whatever. That was where we learned it. Now, this is probably TMI, and this is just funny, but we were planning on having a kid, right? Like, that was the plan, but we ended up having a kid right before, basically, because we learned, like, basically on the second day, like the first morning or like the second day of our trip, and we're like, oh, well, we're a little too quick on it. Now, you know what I mean by that whole thing, but we ended up just a couple days early, but it's cool. Basically, before the flight or something, who knows? I don't really know, obviously, the part of how fast it happened, but yeah, so we learned we were pregnant in Paris, France. Happy tried to not trick me, but like, she was like, oh my gosh, Naz, here's this thing, and my reaction is amazing. I mean, it's hilarious because I was kind of floored because it happened pretty fast. Like, it was just like we had our conversation, and now let me tell you a backstory about this really quickly too. It's funny, when we first got married, when Happy and I first got married, I was all about kids. I was like, we're having kids as soon as possible. Like, I'm so excited. Now, obviously, when we got married, I was in my master's program, so I wasn't like ready to have a kid. I wanted to finish school. We knew like it would be like at least a year or two, but I was on the camp of like, let's make it like within a year or two, and Happy was more of like, let's make it 3 or 4. And so we had like kind of just waited on having the discussion, because we're not that we were like opposed, but it was just, we're just gonna see where life took us first, and then we're gonna kind of reconvene at a later date. And so a later date came, right? And Happy, we sit down together, and she was like, hey, remember when we said we were going to talk about this at a later date? I think it's a later date. And I was like, later date for having, like, we're thinking about it? Like, you're open to it? And now you'd probably think, wow, Naz is so excited. It's only been 2 years into our marriage. Like, he got what he wanted. I was terrified. So the first time we had this conversation, I was like, no. Nope. Let's table this. I don't know. I don't know what it was. Like, I guess I know it. Just being a dad kind of scared me, because that now was reality. At the beginning of marriage, it's like, we're gonna be protective and we're not gonna do it. We want our time together. Now it's like, oh, my wife is like, hey, I'm ready, and I'm like, wait. It was like, I really felt scared, and I remember we talked about it a couple times, because I was so scared. That's just all I can say, is I was scared. And so after that, we waited, a couple more months, whatever flew by, and I was praying, and I was just talking to Happy, and eventually, like, not that I was, not trying to say, oh, Naz, like, I didn't want her to be like, oh, Naz, you're going to be a great dad, whatever. It's just, life becomes so real. Me and Happy, first 2 years of our marriage, not lives, of our marriage, we were having so much fun. We had so much time, and we just did a bunch of things. We traveled a lot. Like, we made pretty good money, and life was great. Life was so great. And so thinking about what life would look like after having a kid, I couldn't comprehend. And I've heard more. And what happens is, when you're about to have a kid, is you hear these horror stories like, oh, you don't get sleep, oh, you don't do this, oh, you don't do that. Let me just be first to tell you, having a kid has been phenomenal. It has increased my life's happiness, and I'm usually a very happy guy, and Happy is a very happy woman, and her name is Happy, and it has increased it. So forget those horror stories. But on the other hand, like, I didn't know what it looked like, and I was afraid. And so a couple months go by, and I was praying, and Happy was praying for me, and so a couple months go by, and I was like, wait, the Lord got us. Yeah, let's do it. And then like a week later, we're in Paris, and then boom, it was kind of excited. Like, I was kind of more excited about, like, oh, let's, maybe hopefully we can conceive when we're in Europe, because we had a Europe trip planned or whatever. And anyways, it's a funny story, because in the beginning of our marriage, I was super excited, and then at later end of this in 2 years in, Happy, like, all of a sudden flipped the switch, and then I was like, nah, like, it just absolutely changed. So that was just a funny situation. It's funny when it actually gets presented to you. And so yeah, with that, like, let's talk about what it looks like. So we learned we were pregnant in Paris, and at first it was just exciting. We didn't tell anybody. The doctors, they tell you, like, it's not that you can't tell anybody, but like, after, it's like 12 weeks or 10 weeks, like, that's when you're more safe. Like, kind of after that first trimester is when you're more safe to go ahead and tell everybody, less chances of, anything happening in the womb. So we were very excited, and so the whole time we went to, like, Greece and Spain and England and all these places, knowing, just like this giddy of, like, oh my gosh, we're you're pregnant, we're pregnant, whatever. And then basically by the time we get back, we start thinking of, like, how are we gonna tell my mom and dad, her mom and dad, how are we gonna tell my brother, like, all these things. And then it hits, boom. One morning, I'm making breakfast, usual eggs. I make Happy this mean avocado toast sandwich, whatever. And I'm whipping up the eggs, and I put it on the pan, and all of a sudden, Happy's throwing up. She was like, nah, forget that. Don't stop cooking, please. And she's just disgusted. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. Did I put too much black pepper? Like, what did I do? And it wasn't me. It wasn't anything. It wasn't the food even. It was just, it was just the morning nausea that started. It wasn't random. I think Happy was beginning to feel a little bit worse. And then one morning it was crazy. And then after that, it was every morning. So for that first trimester, it was just a rough stage. So not all women, but most women have this morning nausea in the first trimester. And as a husband, as the male partner, you want to be as attentive as possible. That first trimester, we didn't really cook, like, not at all. We even, like, the things Happy ate was very plain-ish kind of food, because she just could not stand the smell. Right? Every woman's gonna have a different thing going on, but for the most part, I think a lot of women go through, like, throwing up every morning. And so it became almost routine for Happy. She, like, the first few mornings, it was rough. I would try to, and this is what I would recommend all guys, be attentive. So maybe your woman would not like this, but she would start throwing up, and I would just sit there, like, on the floor with her, cold rag, or maybe hold her hair back if it's in braids or whatever it was in, and just kind of sit there on the floor and let everything happen. And then when she's done, just ask, hey, do you need anything? I'd bring water. And I literally, for 3 months, that was our mornings. And what was crazy? It got to the point where she basically she automated throwing up because she would throw up as soon as she started brushing her teeth. Like when she got tongue, boom, throw up. And she knew by like after the first few days, she was like, yeah, I'm about to throw up. Like, go ahead and, whatever. And she'd throw up when she started brushing her teeth, and it'd just be easy. Like, not easy, but it became easier for her. And it kind of lasted a long time, but it became less like, she was in pain and more of like, I just have to go through this because maybe her body got used to throwing up when, she would brush her teeth or whatever. But the first month it's tough. It's tough. They lose a lot of energy. The body's going through a lot of hormonal changes. So that first trimester, as men, as husbands, we have to be as attentive as possible. I would lean on over helping if you can. Now I am blessed to work from home, so I was able to pop in. We both actually blessed to work from home, so I'd pop in and be like, hey, everything okay? Do you need me to make anything? Obviously that was usually a no, but like, do you need me to get you water or whatever it is, like quick peanut butter sandwich? Just be attentive and ask. Over help. Say, hey, I can do this, I can do that. And I'm usually a helper. So these things kind of come naturally to me, but that's why I'm kind of listing them out so that if these things don't occur to you, try it out. Just, hey, are you okay? Do you need this? Do you need that? I just pop in every couple of hours. We'd have meetings. And so I would just make sure to just basically not forget her. She is literally making life right now. Like, her body is going through that whole process of making life. So then you kind of go into that second trimester. Now there can be a lot more on first trimester. Like, it can be a whole podcast on its own. And I do want to delve in later, but right now I just want to give a synopsis of like the different stages of the pregnancy. So second trimester, this is, months 4 through 6, 7-ish. This is, quote unquote. I remember our Happy's doctor. So, let me just stop here and say, make sure wife gets a great doctor. Our doctor was not amazing. We actually, she might be amazing. We just only saw her once. And this is one thing I made sure to do is I went to, I'm pretty sure every single appointment. I think I missed one appointment, and they become like weekly. So I made sure to be at every appointment. Like, we are doing this together. I would take PTO or put out of office on my calendar, and I would go to every single appointment with Happy. Like, we're doing this together, right? It's not just her job. Like, I need to know what I can help with, and if I'm seeing anything that's going on with Happy, like, I can point it out to Happy if needed. But yeah, I would go to every single of those appointments. So yeah, second trimester, the nurse practitioner, or because we only saw our doctor like once, the nurse practitioner told us this is like the cute phase. And you don't understand at first, but the morning sickness starts to go away, like even pain and, nausea starts to kind of not completely go away, but definitely fade, and it's not as harsh anymore. And then the call, the cute baby bump is starts showing itself. Now, this is more of like the fun time, because the first trimester, hormones going crazy, right? We'll talk about it later in the third trimester, but that's when bump gets big, everything gets heavy. It just is harder to get that energy that the woman once had, before pregnancy, obviously. But for us, second trimester, we had a crazy situation happen. We were planning on buying a new home, but the place we were at then, the house we were at then, I think it was Happy's 4th or 5th month, the house flooded. Now, flooding is kind of extreme. It wasn't like a full flooding. It was, the toilet was clogged. I will not let you know how it was clogged. Me, maybe. But the toilet was clogged, and so I guess we had something wrong with the toilet at the moment. There was just this one little thing broken in the toilet, and so the toilet went the entire morning, like just kept flushing. And so we didn't know it was doing that, and so what ended up happening is the water flooded the toilet and just kept seeping out literally all night. And so I think basically what happened was Happy woke up at 4 or 5 a.m. and I guess she took a couple steps and noticed the water everywhere. And it started going, seeping. And so when she followed the trail, it went downstairs. And oh my goodness, the pictures are insane. When you go downstairs, the ceiling was all like yellowish from just water. Like the water had seeped through so much water. And so immediately we're like, what the heck? Our house is flooded. Like, what can we do? Like, what should we do? Immediately call a couple of plumbers, whatnot. I mean, mind you, it's 4 or 5 in the morning. Nobody's answering. And so we're just like, what the heck? Like, what are we going to do here? This is insane. And obviously, she is in her second trimester of pregnancy. And so this coupled with this situation, coupled with pregnancy, is not fun. Now, she handled it like a champ, right? Like, she was like, let's get on the phone with these these different companies, and we called like a bunch. She actually called a bunch. I think, usually at night I'm pretty like dead, so if I'm sleeping, like, it's hard for me to move. But this night I was definitely up. But we were both calling different companies to come, and finally one answered, and they said they can come at 8. They came at 8, and they're like, yeah, you have to evacuate. We have to gut basically the inside of the house, and tore up all of our walls and the ceilings and everything. And so we went to my parents' house, and we stayed at my parents' house from month 4 or 5 to almost giving birth. We moved into our new house 2 weeks before birth. So we basically stayed with my parents that entire time. And so shout out to my parents, because they were cooking. Like, I mean, they took us in, no questions asked. It was like fantastic. The insurance story is probably something I'll never tell on this podcast, because that was a dude. Like, it was so annoying. But we're past it, so glory to God, we made it past. My parents were there for us, and it was amazing. Not that it was amazing, but like, they were amazing for letting us be with them. But the rest of this podcast is going to be, we were in my parents' house, so whatever we needed, or whatever situation we were in after that, my parents were part of it. And so second trimester, it was for the most part like nice and smooth, except for this crazy like mishap in the house where we had to evacuate, and we literally just were not able to come back to the house, and we ended up moving out before, like, we got it repaired, and then we moved out before we ever moved back into the house. Now, third trimester is categorized by a few words. Can the baby come now? This is when, husbands, you are probably needed the most, because this is when, second trimester, husbands, take pictures. Just take a bunch of pictures. I'm really bad at that. So I know when we have a second child, I will be trying to take as many pictures as possible at that second trimester. Third trimester. This is when, we will be needed the most. This is when we started a birthing class. This is when Happy was the most exhausted, especially that last month. Insane. This is when women might even have this internal dialogue, like, oh, my body's like, getting scared of the body changes. Will I ever be back to my body? And so just making sure you are always positive in your remarks, and you're, uplifting in what you're saying. And you're also helping them prepare to do one of the hardest things. Not one of, it's probably, it is the hardest thing you can do as a human, is giving birth, right? This is, I know me and Happy talked about this a lot. Now, Happy was fully planning on having a natural birth, and we'll get into that into episode 3. But we had like a crazy situation. Anyways, I'll explain that in episode 3. But this is when you are needed the most. Start helping out more in the house. Start doing more cooking, and just take on a lot of the things household, because she's now having a hard time staying up all day. She's having a hard time like going out for walks and doing this. Encourage. Happy was really good at this because she was planning on a natural birth. She was like, let's go walk, let's go do this. She just wanted to get out. Like, being in the house made her feel like a little more drowsier than she would be. But just encourage your wife to be out and encourage her, like, she's going through a lot. She's going through a lot, and she's now mentally preparing for the craziest thing a human body can do. And so be there for her, encourage her. I tried. I would always be like, hey, Happy, like, you got this. Like, I know you're going to rock this. You're working so hard. I'm so proud of you. You look beautiful. Thank you for carrying our baby. All these things, this is things that I would try to say as much as possible. And then maybe sometimes also the morning sickness could come back in that last trimester. So making sure you're there for that part as well. Overall, the stages of pregnancy, first, second, third trimester, all different, all crazy. They bring their own different situations and own different ways we can help as husbands. And so be supportive, be attentive, listen to your wife, right? Listen to your partner. We as husbands, we as guys will literally never know what the heck is going on. Never. I mean, there's just never a possibility of understanding how your woman is feeling during this time. So if she's saying like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so tired, and she's taking more naps, or she's throwing up like crazy, or like, you put on a spray or a cologne. And this is another thing, I did not use spray or cologne. I obviously use deodorant, but like spray and cologne was not allowed for like the full 9 months. That smell would just kill her. And so just be attentive. Like, it might sound ridiculous, but like, we can never know. We'll never know what it feels like. So just as much as you can, be attentive, listen, and act. So that is episode 2, the stages of pregnancy. Thank you guys for listening. I'm so excited. It's been so fun for me. I'm speaking with my hands. My hands are like literally over my head. So again, episode 2 of Dad's Dialogues. Thank you all for listening. You guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.